17 years ago, Arizona voters said teachers weren't being paid enough, and they did something about it. The result was Proposition 301, a new sales tax for the schools. Today, Arizona voters are saying the same thing, and Governor Doug Ducey is now getting behind an extension of that sales tax. But whatever you do, don't call it a tax. The governor says it's a funding mechanism. The sales tax sends about 4 cents on every $10 you spend to teacher and staff salaries, but time is running short to extend it. It has to happen by 2021, just 4 years away, a lot closer than that sounds. So will it happen now that the governor is kind of on board? Joining us to discuss all that and more, Democratic State Representative Isela LeBlanc of Tempe. Chad Haywood, a political consultant and former Republican Party executive director, and political analyst Chris Hurstum. Chris, I'll start with you to kind of give us some of the history here, but why does the governor's support matter in this as this proposition times out?
Well, whatever you want to call it, it is maintaining a tax, and there'll be serious discussion about expanding that tax. And the only way that you're going to get the Republican conservative legislature to put it on the ballot is with a Republican conservative governor urging them to do so. It just politically makes it doable. I personally think that they can't miss this opportunity. I think they ought to put a full penny on it. They ought to make it 1.6 cents and raise an additional new $1 billion on top of the $600 million that it brings in. It may be our only chance to get that tremendous amount of money and put it into the classrooms and into teacher salaries. We desperately need it.
So that's going to be one of the things raised, Chad, but how complicated does that make the path to getting this on the ballot?
I actually don't think it'll be that complicated. This was passed in 2000. I think it's baked into most people's expectations, and it's targeted specifically to education. I think the governor's shown a propensity to want to increase education spending. And the last tax was passed when I was a senior in high school, and I'm going gray. So, I think
you
this
look
is
good. You don't look that old.
Yeah, I think this is pretty well baked into people's expectations. So,
what's your sense of that? Just how baked in this is, and given how tough the fight for Prop 123 wasn't that easy. It just won with barely over 50% of the vote.
Exactly. I think this is an exciting time for Democrats, and what you stated earlier, Governor Ducey is afraid to call it a tax. And that's exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be an expansion, and it's absolutely necessary. And right now, teachers are upset. They were given a raise. It amounts to a cup of coffee every 2 weeks. And so
that was in the governor's budget, still has not been approved.
Yeah.
So, but there is an appetite for more education, clearly a top issue among educators and the business community.
The one thing that I think the education community needs to be very careful of, they compromised a lot on the 1, 2, 3 big agreement to put it on the ballot. I think the education community better be careful this time, though, because I could see conservatives, I don't know if the governor will try this, but conservatives and segments of the business community that will try to cut a deal where they will go ahead and go for additional funding, an expansion, putting on 4/10 extra or a full penny, but they'll also want something in return, like maybe an income tax reduction that the governor's always been interested in. They should, in my opinion, the education community should not go down this road, because all you'll be doing then is taking money away from, if you reduce the income tax, from other areas of the general fund, and we'll be back in a crisis mode in other areas, whether it's transportation or whether it's prisons or social services or whatever.
So, Isela LeBlanc, do you see any room for negotiation on this? Is it just the tax and more, or?
Well, you know what I see? I see that right now Governor Ducey is in a predicament. You know, he has to agree to renewing, and teachers and schools and educators in our communities, that's what they're asking.
So you think he has no choice? Chad, how soon could this make it on the ballot, given all the politics involved?
The politics involved, I think that this is something that they'll probably do on the 2020 election. You have a broader electorate, an electorate that is younger. Republican families send their kids to public schools too, and they want it funded, but conservatives are rightly worried about education reforms, making sure dollars get in the classroom. So I think that the governor will find an open legislature to funding this. There's a fiscal cliff I mean, if this doesn't pass or some iteration of this with reforms, they have a massive budget deficit that they then have to cut more into education to fund.
And by 2020, a presidential election year, they'll be staring that fiscal cliff right in the face.